Welcome to the Family Answer Man. Today we're answering your questions about narcissism and enabling from a biblical worldview on the Family Answer Man program. This is David Orgis here with Dr. Mark Crosby, the Family Answer Man. This time is designed to answer questions commonly asked both in the counseling and church worlds. And our goal is to answer general questions from a biblical worldview through the lens of our collective years of experience and education to help you have a stronger, healthier, and happier family. We want to thank today the incredible people at Winter's Air and Days Smokehouse and Specialty Meats for underwriting today's show. Winter's Air is located in Denham Springs and services the Denham Springs and surrounding areas. Days Meat Market is located in Watson at 35770 LA 16 in Denham Springs. Now, this is not a therapy session, nor is the Family Answer Man advice specific to your situation. We know that mental health is a very serious issue, and family dynamics can be and are often complicated and dynamic. For more information or in-depth answers to your question, we want to encourage you to seek out professional counsel for your specific circumstances. But we hope that this episode of the Family Answer Man will encourage you and inspire you to make changes that will lead to a stronger, healthier, and happier family. Well, I'm David Orgis. I have a master's in professional counseling. I have 18 years in ministry, and I've been married for 11 years and have 4 incredible kids, and I am glad to be your host today. But I am joined by Dr. Mark Crosby, who has a PhD in family psychology, a master's in clinical counseling, a master's of education in pastoral counseling and theology, a master's in law with a focus in mediation, and he is a licensed professional counselor supervisor, and a licensed marriage and family therapist. Dr. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about your family today?
Yeah, family is always an exciting and challenging part of who we are in our life. And so, no, it's a great, it's just a great day to be alive, a great day just to, love those around you. And as long as you have your family, you have what I would call the great blessing of life. And that's why we do this program, so that everyone can, have a stronger, happier family. I mean, family is challenging, like I said. There's personality differences. There are opinions that are different. There are views that are different. And so with those differences, sometimes comes challenges. But again, at the end of the day, your family is the most important part of your life. And so this is why we're here, to try to make family life better for you, for me, for all of us.
That's right. The Family Answer Man. And Dr. Mark, you've been married for
almost 40 years.
Man, 40 years. And that's incredible. 40 years to the same wonderful woman.
That's right.
Your wife is a sweet, special lady.
She
and you've got 3 adult children. And how many grandchildren now?
8 grandchildren.
8 grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I heard that grandchildren are way better than having your own kids because you get to get them all sugared up and send them home.
Well, you're definitely much more knowledgeable and mature, and you have a better understanding of what they're wanting and needing, and the perspective of supervising, caring, and loving them. So yeah, you're definitely, shall we say, more equipped to manage their wants and needs.
There you go. Well, today, Dr. Mark, on the Family Answer Man program, we have a couple of questions. As I said in the introduction, we're going to be talking a little bit about narcissism and enabling. So the first question that came in was written, and it says this. First question on Family Answer Man is, my extended family, or my family, has relayed to me that they will no longer be coming over to our home for the holidays because they said that my husband is a narcissist. Now, that's a buzzword in the world today, narcissism. What exactly does that mean?
Wow. Yeah, narcissism is one of those words that is making its way in the various social media and various other avenues. It's a word that you hear quite often. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's used in the wrong context. But again, narcissism, if we're going to break it down, and this is something I want pastors to hear, pastoral counselors, as well as professional mental health specialists, to understand that basically narcissism is a personality disorder. Now, just a little background, and this is more on the academic side, so for all of our listeners, please be mindful that, again, this is just a little history, but pastors, pastoral counselors, this may be something you might want to hear as well. But bottom line, personality disorders did not come into the mental health world, if you will, as far as diagnosis until 1980. So personality disorders are still relatively new. They came about in 1980. They used to be considered in the old way of diagnosing as an axis 2 diagnosis. Now, what that really means is this. A psychiatric disorder, think of it like this. A psychiatric disorder means something's broken. Think of having a broken leg, if you will. If your leg is broken, you're going to treat it differently. You're going to set the bone, put a cast on it, give it 12 weeks, and hopefully it'll heal. That is, in essence, the parallel of a psychiatric disorder. Psychiatric means something is broken. However, if your leg is missing, if it's amputated, that is, in essence, a parallel of a personality disorder. It means something inside of you is missing. And so what happens is narcissism is a personality disorder. Now, understand this. We all have what I would call tendencies. And many of us have what I would call narcissistic tendencies. But a disorder is when this part of your personality is debilitating, distorting a healthy way of life, impeding you from enjoying your relationship. So narcissistic personality disorder means I have this personality style or this personality type that debilitates, impedes, and distorts a healthy way of life.
So if somebody has narcissistic personality disorder, do they know that?
Most of them will recognize that about themselves in most cases, if they're going to be really honest. But the DSM, or Diagnostic Manual for Mental Health Concerns and Disorders, etc., lists some of the symptoms. And basically, if a person has 5 of these 9 symptoms, one can, for the most part, be diagnosed with this personality disorder. And here basically are those 9 symptoms for those who are, again, kind of following along and listening and wanting to kind of have some insight as to what true narcissism really is. Number 1, they have a grandiose sense of self-importance. In other words, they want to exaggerate their talents. They want to exaggerate their achievements. They're the person who walks into a room and just feels superior. They just feel like they're better than everybody else. They kind of look down their nose at other people. In the days of Jesus, if you will, the Pharisees were the narcissists of the day. They thought they were better. They thought they were superior. They thought they were more important. And so this grandiosity basically is what is seen, the first diagnosis, if you will, the first symptom, if you will, of the narcissist. And so Jesus dealt with the Pharisees and basically, said time and time again the importance of being humble, the importance of not being prideful. So grandiose or self-importance is number 1. Number 2 is they're preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success. In other words, they're the person who walks into the room and they're going to tell you, how much money they make, or how many cars they have, or how many degrees they have, or how important they are, or what they're going to accomplish, or by the end of this year, I'll be a multimillionaire kind of thing. They're the person who walks in with this sense of unlimited fantasy success. Number 3, they believe they're special and unique and can only be understood by equally statused people. So they see themselves as special, unique, and the only ones they want to associate with, the only ones they feel understand them, are like-minded, unique, and special people. Number 4, they require excessive admiration. They have to constantly be told how wonderful they are, how popular they are, how great they are. They require this excessive admiration. And they're the person who, again, feels that everyone who they associate with needs to daily remind them of how wonderful and how great they are. Number 5, they have a sense of entitlement. They're the person who feels like someone else should pay, someone else should take care of the bill, someone else should do for them instead of them doing for them. So they have this sense of entitlement. Number 6 is where things get a little concerning, whereby they're exploitive. They start taking advantage of other people. They take advantage of their coworkers. They take advantage of their employees. They take advantage of their spouse. They take advantage of maybe their extended family. And when people start realizing that this person is starting to take advantage of me, that's when things begin to break down. Number 7, they lack empathy. If someone is hurting, if someone's crying, if someone is grieving, they don't understand it. They don't get it. They don't get involved. They just lack empathy. Number 8, they are envious of others and believe others are envious of them. They have this sense of, why do you have the opportunity and I don't? Why did you receive the bonus and I didn't? Why did you get the raise and I didn't? And so they're envious of others, or they feel like others are envious of them. And last of all, they have this arrogant, haughty behavior. And so this arrogant, haughty behavior, unfortunately, is, as the old saying goes, a turn off for a lot of people, especially extended family. So I can understand why this extended family is saying to their daughter, their sister, whomever it may be, we're not coming to your house for the holidays, because, again, the narcissistic person is very difficult to be around.
Right, yeah, it sounds like this would be a person that's incredibly emotionally exhausting just to be around this person.
Right.
So with that being said, how do you deal with a narcissist? So say somebody's in this boat and they hear this question, they go, oh man, that's me, but I don't want to skip family holidays. I want to go to the family holiday. How do I have a peaceful, enjoyable interaction with somebody that's a narcissist?
Yeah, again, as we've said time and time again, and we'll continue to say time and time again, you cannot change what you do not diagnose. And so when a person recognizes this about themselves, or they realize that their behavior is maybe causing some problems in the family, their behavior is causing maybe some division in the family, and they truly understand it, then again, it's important that they recognize and maybe create the sense of humility. I mean, the Bible says we're called to humble ourselves. So maybe when you recognize this about yourself, maybe you need to be the one that says less. Maybe you need to not be the center of attention. Maybe you need to be reminded that maybe I need to ask the other people around me how they are doing, or compliment them, or hear their story instead of you being the one where everyone wants to hear your story or you feel superior. Boundaries are very important. If you have a person who's a narcissist, you need to realize, again, that you may not be able to change them, but you do have control over what you do. And that means creating those boundaries, not allowing them to say things or do things that may be detrimental or deriding, giving yourself some space, if you will. The thing is that people ask me this question as well: where does this come from? I mean, how does a person become a narcissist? And the amazing thing that we're discovering in research is that the inherited traits that we have, or these traits that we have, are indeed inherited. 75% of our personality type, our personality tendencies, and our personality disorders, we're discovering are inherited. And so realizing that about yourself, realizing that this is basically how you're wired, but it may not be working in certain settings, gives you the responsibility to begin to say, what can I start to do? What do I need to do? And make that conscientious effort to not allow this personality type that you've inherited to become a disorder. So recognizing that about yourself, listening to those around you when they say there's a concern, there's a problem, humbling yourself, and then those who live with a narcissist, having a sense of boundary sometimes is very important.
So I'm curious. You've used the phrases a couple of times of going from personality or going from narcissistic tendencies to becoming a disorder. And you mentioned earlier that every one of us has some level of narcissism that at least on a daily basis or occasionally will kind of creep in and pop its head up. What do you do with that, and how do you know the difference, and then how do you manage so that a narcissistic tendency doesn't become
a disorder?
Yeah,
right. Again, a tendency is something, like you said, we all will possess some level of narcissism. In other words, we all want to achieve, we all want to accomplish, we all want to be recognized for a job well done. Who doesn't want a pat on the back? Who doesn't want to hear job well done? We all want that and need that. And so these are all tendencies that perhaps we have, and sometimes they're healthy. It's when it becomes debilitating. It's when it becomes a distraction. It's when it becomes basically a problem within the relationship that's causing you to function and to relate in a healthy manner. In other words, you're expecting that praise, and when you don't get it, you become upset. Or you're expecting, that bonus from the boss or whatever, and when you don't get it, then you become irate. Or when someone else receives the praise, or someone else receives the bonus, or someone else receives, the compliment, you become irate because you didn't get it. That's when it goes from being a tendency, I will argue, to becoming a disorder. So again, when anything debilitates, impedes, or distorts a healthy way of life, that is when it's considered a disorder. And so narcissism, again, It's just because a person wants to feel important in their job doesn't mean necessarily they have a narcissistic disorder. Excuse me.
That's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but it's when they throw a tantrum. It's when they begin to falsely accuse. It's when they break down the relationship that it becomes a disorder.
So for the person that wrote this question in, brings up the good a great thing to, I think, talk about right now is you're a spouse and you have a spouse, husband or wife that is displays maybe some narcissistic tendencies, or is maybe you listened to the Family Answer Man and heard those criteria and you said, wow, I am married to a narcissist. How does that person handle that when you have a spouse that's a narcissist? And we're going to talk about enabling in a different sense in a minute.
Right. So sometimes depending on the type of relationship, in this case, the husband may listen to what his wife is saying and will hopefully make some adjustments accordingly. Sometimes it requires therapy. Now, again, I will say this, and for the pastors who are listening out there, and for the counselors who are listening out there, narcissists don't do therapy well because they feel like they know it all anyway. They feel like they're better than the pastor, they're better than the counselor, they're smarter than the counselor. Anyway,
they should be on the opposite side of the
desk.
Exactly.
But when that person begins to humble themselves and when they begin to realize maybe, just maybe, what is being said about them is true, or maybe they begin to recognize this about themselves as they get older and a little more mature, then they can hopefully hear what a counselor has to say, or hear what a pastor has to say, or hear what their spouse has to say, and begin to realize, you know what, I'm going to have to consciously work on this. I'm going to have to conscientiously spend some time looking and listening to what I'm saying and doing so that I do not become that person that no one wants to be around or relate to. Or embrace.
So as a spouse, setting those healthy boundaries like you talked about is a key in helping.
And approaching it in a way that is concerning instead of approaching it in a way that is condemning. And I think that sometimes is the difference. When a spouse starts to condemn their spouse for their behavior or for their personality type or whatever, then naturally you're going to get defensive. But when a spouse approaches them with a sense of concern, then that opens the door and allows them to maybe be more receptive to what's being said.
That's really good, with concern, not condemnation.
Exactly.
So the second question that we have for the Family Answer Man today is in the same vein of not enabling poor or toxic or unhealthy behavior. And it comes from a concerned parent. It says, I have 4 children. My youngest has a substance abuse problem. My other children, all adults, they're calling me the enabler, and I am just trying to help. Does that mean that I'm the enabler? So I'm trying to help my youngest child. As a parent, I think everyone can relate to wanting to help your children, bail your children out, take care of them. Does that mean that they are an enabler?
Wow. Yeah. Every parent that I've ever spoken to, especially those who are, I'm sure, listening to us, in this audience, wants to be there for their children. They want to be there. They want to be helpful to their children. And look, helping your child who's struggling is something that, again, I think is healthy and important and necessary. However, there is a fine line between helping someone and enabling them. And according to this question, what I'm kind of sensing is that the other siblings are going, mom is now being taken advantage of. Mom is wanting to help our sibling with this addiction problem, but she's perhaps doing more harm than good.
Right.
And boy, does that really cause some dissension within the family. So basically, enabling is this. Enabling is simply allowing the one who is struggling with an addiction to continue to take advantage, maybe through receiving financial help, maybe through being bailed out of jail time and time again. In other words, not receiving the consequences, maybe given a new car every time they wreck it because they were drinking and driving. And so what begins to happen is the person who struggles with the substance abuse or whatever problem it may be is not at the moment receiving the consequences that's causing them to pause and say, maybe I need to change my life. Maybe I need to redirect some things. Maybe I need to stop doing some things. And so what happens is the mom or the dad or the grandparent or whoever who wants to help their child, who wants to see their child do better, begins to, again, bail them out, give them money, make excuses for them, lie for them, etc. And as long as you're doing that, the person who is struggling with the addiction or getting in trouble, they never, as the old saying goes, learn their lesson. They never receive the consequences of their actions, and therefore they are being reinforced that I can do drugs, or I can drink and drive, or I can shoplift, or whatever, and nothing's going to happen to me. And so, again, one of the great stories of the Bible is the story of the prodigal son. And there's so many wonderful points that are in that particular story. But the one primary point is the fact that this boy, this prodigal son, who wasted his money, who wasted his time, who got involved in all sorts of immoral things, basically hit rock bottom. And the Bible says that here he is knee-deep in pig slop, if you will. He is so hungry, he longs to eat the pig slop. And here he is, this Jewish boy wanting to eat what pigs eat. That's how hungry he is. He has hit rock bottom. And the Bible has this wonderful little scripture. It says, and he came to his senses.
Yes, indeed.
And he came to his senses. How? Because he hit rock bottom. The point is, sometimes we have to allow those that we love to hit rock bottom so they'll come to their senses. Real quickly, addiction, and this is something that I want pastors to hear, I want counselors to hear, but addiction's like a virus. And what I mean by that is this. A virus wants to come in and take over the host. We've been talking about COVID. We've heard about viruses over the last several years. But an addiction is very similar. Addiction wants to come in and take over the host. And addiction, like a virus, will have certain defenses. For the addict, there is rage, there is manipulation, there is shaming, there is lying, there is being the victim, there is discounting how serious the problem is. And did I mention lying, and more lying? There was an old saying when I was a counselor at Baptist Hospital years ago. How do you know when an addict is lying? When he opens his mouth. And so the point is that until you break through some of these defenses, until you break through some of these barriers, if you will, that the addict has put up, they're going to continue living this life. And sometimes the only way for that barrier or those walls to be broken is when they hit rock bottom.
So how does a parent or a sibling or even just a friend, someone that cares about an addict, how do they go about in a loving way making the distinction between what you said is help versus enabling?
Well, again, the helper sometimes, one of the telltale signs that I'm enabling is when the person who's trying to help is now being taken advantage of. In other words, your savings is being depleted. Your car is being crashed and wrecked. You no longer feel safe in your own home because of what's happening. And so at that moment in time, when the helper starts feeling in danger, that's a problem. So trying to create, if you will, this way of saying, I'm not going to bail you out. I'm not going to give you money. I'm not going to loan you my car. I'm not going to allow, in other words, creating boundaries. That's powerful. I will point you in the direction. I'll give you a list of numbers to call. Here's some doctors you can call. Here's some counselors you can call. Here's some agencies you can call. Here's some rehab centers you can call. Here, I will help you. I will bring you to the rehab center. I will bring you to the 12-step program, but I'm not going to jeopardize my livelihood, my welfare, my well-being any longer. And so creating that boundary but still helping that person is crucial. Again, the enabler is the one that loses their savings. They put themselves in harm's way. They put themselves in situations that at their age and stage of life they should not be in, trying to quote unquote help the person who struggles with addiction.
I can imagine that most people that are listening to this are not, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos level rich, right? So I'm imagining that you can be enabler and it not really cost you, but most people probably are seeing some of that where they are the source of help. And what I'm hearing you say is that if you are the source of help, the only source that's always bailing them out, and it is costing you, that's a good red flag for you to notice.
Of course.
But that it's not that you're not getting them help, but that you're actually helping connect them to healthy outlets for that addict to be helped.
Right. Again, you want to do things that are going to actually help the person. There's an old saying that says, for a lot of parents to children who are addicts, if you continue to bail them out, if you continue to give them money, and this money is going to go probably to buy more drugs or whatever, then you're loving your child to death. You're loving your child to death. And so having that boundary, having that healthy alternative of bringing your child to the rehab, to the 12-step program, without giving them money to say things and do things that they do not have the maturity or the responsibility to manage well, is so very important. So again, I can understand the frustration in this question of the siblings who are saying to their mom, to their parent, whomever, you're an enabler. Our sibling is not getting better because you keep giving them money, you keep bailing them out, you keep giving them what they want, and it's not helping. It's only making the matter worse.
Right. And that's a really difficult place to be in when you see that someone else is being taken advantage of. And they, I can imagine that these kids care about their mom or their dad who is in this situation, as well as caring about their sibling and wanting to see a healthy family dynamic going on here.
And sometimes that enabler, that mom, needs support, or that dad maybe needs to hear from their peers or a counselor in their life or a pastor in their life. They need that support because there's something inside of all of us that wants to help our child. But sometimes we need to recognize that what I'm doing is not helping, it's only hurting. And sometimes you need that pastor, you need that counselor, you need that close friend, you need that person in your life that says, there's a better way, there's a healthier way. So sometimes the enabler needs just as much counsel or therapy or coaching as the person with the addiction.
Right. That's a really difficult thing to be able to start to process and say, hey, the help that I feel like that I'm giving is actually hurting. Right. To be able to admit that, again, just like you talked about with narcissism, to be able to admit those things and self-diagnose really frees us up to then take the next step that we need to grow and to for us become healthier, so that then we can also help those around us become healthier. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mark, the Family Answer Man. This has been a great time. We appreciate your insight and your wisdom as we've talked about narcissism and enabling this morning. We want to remind you on the Family Answer Man that this is a program that is designed to help you have a healthier, stronger, and happier family. But this is not a counseling session. You today have not given specific advice into people's individual circumstances or lives, but that we have provided them with advice that hopefully will help guide them in the right place. So, as you mentioned, helping people get to the right resources. What is your phone number for your private practice, so that if somebody says, hey, I identify that either I'm an enabler or I am a narcissist or I'm surrounded by one of these people, how can they get in touch with you so you can help them?
Sure, you can call us at 225-936-2607. We'd love to hear from you. There's always, again, a need that we want to feel and make as we are trying to make our families better, and that's what we try to do.
And they can also get in touch with the Family Answer Man program by emailing familyanswerman@loumc.org. That's loumc.org, or at soundradioinfo@milldale.org. And either one of those will get their questions to us, and we will talk about those on the air and hopefully address some of the questions that our listeners have. I want to thank today our underwriters, which are Winter's Air and Days Smokehouse and Specialty Meats, for underwriting the show today. Winter's Air is located in Denham Springs and services the Denham Springs and surrounding areas. And Days Smokehouse and Specialty Meats is located at 35770 in Watson on LA Highway 16. And man, I think I'm going to get some days for lunch today. So thank you to our underwriters. We appreciate it. And thank you to Dr. Mark, the Family Answer Man, for another great, insightful time that we had to help our families be stronger, healthier, and happier.